Have you ever looked at someone who makes success look effortless and wondered how they got there? How does a baby go from falling to walking to running to one day becoming an athlete? How does someone go from stalling a car in panic to driving with one hand while talking, thinking, and navigating at the same time? How does a person burn their first meal, freeze in front of a computer, struggle through their first presentation, and later do those same things with total confidence? Most people think skill appears all at once. It doesn't. There is a process, a quiet process, a psychological journey almost everyone goes through, but very few people understand while they are in it. And that is exactly why so many people quit too early. Because when progress feels awkward, when effort feels embarrassing, when you suddenly realize how bad you are, you think something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. You are simply moving through the stages of transformation. In this video, we're going to break down the full journey, from not knowing that you are unskilled, to becoming painfully aware of it, to working on it with intention, and finally reaching the point where skill becomes part of who you are. Because awareness is not failure. Awareness is the beginning of mastery. And once you understand this process, you stop judging yourself so quickly. You stop quitting in the middle, and you finally learn how real growth actually works. Let's make this simple. Every skill you will ever learn tends to pass through 4 psychological stages. First, unconscious incompetence. This is when you don't know how bad you are yet, because you don't even understand the skill. Second, conscious incompetence. Now you see the gap. Now you realize, this is harder than I thought. This is where frustration begins. Third, conscious competence. You can do it, but only with focus, only with effort, only when you slow down and think. And fourth, unconscious competence. This is when the skill becomes natural, fluid, automatic. It is no longer something you force, it becomes something you embody. And here is what makes this journey so emotional. At the beginning, you may feel confident, not because you are skilled, but because you are unaware. Then, awareness comes, and confidence drops. That moment feels painful, but it is actually progress. Because the moment you become aware of your weakness, you become capable of changing it. That is why this video matters. If you understand these stages, you stop interpreting discomfort as proof that you should quit. You start seeing discomfort as proof that you have entered the real learning zone. This is where almost every journey begins. You are unskilled, but you are not fully aware of it yet. Not because you are foolish, not because you lack potential, but because you have not yet seen the true complexity of the skill. A baby doesn't know how hard balance really is. It simply sees people standing and moving. A person who has never driven may think, how hard can it be? You just sit, steer, and press the pedals. Someone who has never cooked properly may assume, you just follow a recipe. And someone who has never built a real presentation on a computer may think, it's just slides. From the outside, skill looks simple. That is why beginners often underestimate the process. They see the result, but not the years of repetition behind it. They see the polished performance, but not the messy beginning. This stage can actually feel comfortable, because ignorance can protect your ego. You don't yet see all the mistakes you are about to make. You don't yet feel the gap between where you are and where you want to be. But the moment you try, everything changes, and that is where growth really begins. Then comes the stage that breaks most people. conscious incompetence. This is the moment you become aware. You try to stand and fall. You try to drive and panic. You try to cook and ruin the timing. You try to make a presentation and suddenly everything feels confusing. Now you know. Now you can no longer pretend it is easy. Now you see the distance between your intention and your ability. For a baby, this is the awkward stage of pulling itself up, wobbling, dropping, trying again. For a new driver, it is the stage of overthinking everything. Mirrors, pedals, clutch, brake, traffic, signs, speed, direction. For cooking, it is burning one thing while undercooking another. For presentations, it is struggling with layouts, fonts, flow, transitions, and the fear that it all looks amateur. This is where embarrassment can show up. This is where self-doubt gets loud. And this is also where many people quit. Not because they are incapable, but because they finally became aware. That is the trap. They mistake awareness for failure. But awareness is not failure. Awareness is vision. You cannot improve what you cannot see. This is the first honest stage, the first humbling stage, the first powerful stage. Because the moment you say, "I'm not good at this yet," you have opened the door to becoming good at it. And that tiny word, "yet," changes everything. At this point, everyone faces a decision. You now know you are not good yet. So what happens next? Some people protect their ego. They walk away. They tell themselves, "This just isn't for me. I'm not talented. I'm not naturally good at this." But other people make a different decision. They decide to work on it. Not because it suddenly feels easy, not because they suddenly feel confident, but because they understand something deeper. Skill is built, not gifted at the start. The baby keeps trying to stand, then takes first steps, then falls again, then walks a little further. The learner driver gets back in the car again and again, until the chaos becomes familiar. The beginner in the kitchen starts to understand heat, timing, texture, sequence. The person learning presentations begins to notice design principles, structure, rhythm, storytelling, and clarity. Repetition starts doing its work. And this is where discipline becomes more important than emotion. Because emotion will often say, "Stop, this is uncomfortable." But growth says, "Stay, this is how you change." If you can survive this middle zone, if you can keep showing up while still feeling imperfect, you separate yourself from most people. Because most people want the feeling of mastery without enduring the identity crisis of becoming someone new. But becoming skilled requires that old version of you to feel inadequate for a while. That is not punishment. That is the price of expansion. Then one day, something changes. You are no longer completely lost. You can do it now. But you still have to think. This is conscious competence. The baby is no longer just falling. Now it can walk, carefully, intentionally. Still unstable at times, but clearly progressing. The driver can now move the car, turn, park, follow traffic, but with total concentration. The cook can prepare a meal that actually works, but still checks the recipe, watches the timing, thinks through every step. The person making presentations can now create something clean and effective, but still needs focus for structure, design, pacing, and storytelling. This stage is beautiful because it proves you are changing. But it is also demanding, because performance still requires conscious effort. You are not guessing anymore.
You are practicing with awareness, and that matters. Because this stage is where technique is refined, where details are corrected, where confidence becomes grounded in evidence. This is the stage where you stop saying, "I hope I can do it," and begin saying, "I know I can do it, if I stay focused." That is a powerful shift. Not arrogance, not fantasy, competence. And the more you repeat the correct patterns, the less effort the skill will eventually require. And then, after enough repetition, enough correction, enough patience, you arrive at the stage people usually notice: unconscious competence. This is when the skill becomes natural. The baby who once struggled to stand is now running freely, and years later, maybe even sprinting like an athlete. The driver who once panicked at every signal now drives smoothly while staying fully present to the road. The cook who once burned simple meals now moves through the kitchen with rhythm and instinct. The person who once stared helplessly at a blank presentation can now open the computer and build something strong almost automatically. This is what mastery begins to feel like. Not magic, not luck. Stored repetition. The body remembers. The mind remembers. The patterns become internal. And this is the stage that fools people watching from the outside. Because they see ease, but they do not see the awkward beginning that created it. They see grace, but they do not see the hundreds of clumsy repetitions underneath it.
That is why you should never compare your Chapter 1 to someone else's Chapter 20. Effortless is usually just practiced enough. So, what is the real lesson here? The real lesson is this: do not panic when awareness makes you uncomfortable. That discomfort may be the first honest sign that you are finally learning. When you become aware of your weakness, you have not fallen behind. You have stepped into reality, and reality is where progress begins. Every meaningful skill will humble you first. Every meaningful transformation will ask you to tolerate being bad for a while. Every meaningful breakthrough will require you to stay long enough for awkward effort to become embodied ability. So be aware, become skilled. Do not run from the stage where you feel clumsy. Respect it, because hidden inside that stage is the version of you that will one day make it look easy. If this video gave you a new way to understand growth, then don't leave it here. Because once you understand how skill is built, the next step is learning how to shape the mind behind the skill. So if you want to go deeper into awareness, rewiring, and the patterns that control behavior, watch the next video on this channel. And if you've ever felt frustrated in the middle of your own process, go back and watch the related videos, because they will help you understand why change feels hard before it feels natural. If this video spoke to you, leave a comment with the skill you are working on right now. And remember, the stage you are in today is not your final form. It is just part of the path.